Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Great to see so many people joining straight away. And if you can, it would be great to see if you can add in the chat where you're joining from, so we can see who's joining and where they're from. Give you a little shout out to some of our attendees today. My name is Chris. And we're going to get started pretty quickly. We only have half an hour, so I'd love to be able to get going and share screen. To talk about how to generate leads during the downturn and keep your business thriving. I think one of the best ways to do it is just get straight in. We see that chat appears disabled. Thank you, Bob. Well, it would be great if we can get it for next time, but we'll make sure that we can get some people shouting out with where they're from. But if you do have questions and answers, please add them to the Q&A section. I think that's going to be great as well to keep this as interactive as possible. In the meantime, I'm just going to share my screen now and we can get going with everything else. So as you can see, my name is Chris Henley. I'm going to be going through today with how to generate leads in times of economic uncertainty and just keep your business thriving. Just a bit about me to break the ice. I've been originally from the UK, originally from Brighton, moved to Barcelona in 2005. So in the last 16 years, I've actually been running sales teams and running lead generation teams, SDR teams, channel management teams, and inside sales teams. So for a number of different organizations from all types of industries. And I've also scaled successfully BDR teams and inside sales teams to generate business and run from multiple startups across the industries. So as you can see with my experience, I've worked with IT organizations, with software as service organizations, and most recently with a startup that was helping vacation rental experts generate more revenue from their investments by the use of data. And by using data within the vacation rental industry and making savvy investment decisions before they're purchasing vacation rental businesses and helping those expand. So I have a lot of information, a lot of experience around inbound and outbound demand generation and lead generation to be able to keep yourself sufficient and to keep self-sufficient during times where you can have peaks and troughs where you're getting information from marketing or leads from marketing, or even as well if you're going to be generating them yourself or working alongside them to get the most out of what's going to be brought in from the top of the funnel. So that's a little bit about me, and I thought one thing that's important to discuss before we started, and given the number of years I've had, is to talk about definitions. And you'd be surprised how many times you sit in meetings and people are arguing, or not arguing, but discussing the definition of an MQL or of an SAL, right? So one thing I wanted to start before we do this is just define what I consider to be an MQL. So what it stands for is marketing qualified lead. I think everyone's agreeing on that. But I think where most people would differ is I would see a marketing qualified lead from activity that has been produced from an end user and has hit a threshold that is agreed by the business before it changes hands from the marketing funnel to the sales funnel. So just to recap on that for me, it's once the activity that has been produced from the end user hits a threshold before it transfers from department marketing to another department, in this case, or this scenario would be sales. So that's where I consider an MQL to sit. And again, you need to ascertain and define those points and the point system before something clicks that threshold, before you can start any of this process. Because if you understand that someone is downloading a white paper or accessing certain material, does that material have a different weight compared to other activity that could be provided from the customer? So it's extremely important that we understand the MQL. After you take the MQL and the marketing qualified lead, and that hits the threshold before it goes through to the next department, we're now looking at sales accepted lead. Now, again, in my experience, I've heard a number of sales leaders say the sales accepted lead is someone who has money, they have money now, and they want to buy what we've got. Okay, I'm gonna take that to one side for the moment and thank them for their input. For me, a sales accepted lead should be, again, someone that comes through the MQL, and they come through the MQL status, they've hit the lead threshold, but we defined that they are an ICP, so they are within the ideal customer profile. We can define a need, and that specific need we can address. So whatever the need is that we're trying to address, we can define that. Right? And they are the right person that we're speaking to. That's it. That's all we need in terms of a sales accepted lead. Because once we ascertain that that information we have is correct, we're then looking at the next stage, and that next stage should be around the qualification. And the SQL stage is probably the toughest stage within this sales process. And that needs to be defined again by the business. In my experience, a sales qualified lead, what you're trying to add on top of that is the time frame. It's within a certain time frame that makes sense to the business and the customer, but you're also trying to understand whether or not they fit within all of the parameters that you've set in terms of ideal customer profile, whether they have that high propensity to buy, and all of the other metrics that you're looking for when you're trying to sell to that particular customer. So when we look at the demand generation and lead generation as a whole, you have a number of different things that we're trying to entice and get people on board. So the lead generation part comes a little bit later. It's the demand generation piece at the top of the funnel that we focus on first, which works on the left-hand side of the pie chart that you can see there, where they're looking at acknowledgement and dialogue, where you're generating content and you're incentivizing people to click on content and to engage and consume the information that we're providing for them, and you're actually getting them to click on those buttons. So that activation is the activation of downloading a white paper or reading an article or doing something that doesn't necessarily have to sit behind a paywall, but what you're trying to do is incentivize someone to actually take action. That's the demand gen piece that we're looking at. And that should be able to give you a little bit of an understanding as to what the market is telling you in terms of your intent, who is looking and why they're looking, what type of intent do they have, but also you have that high propensity. Now, high propensity is something that in my experience, when we see someone that has a high propensity to buy or a high propensity to fall through the funnel or to go through the funnel, we can ascertain why that is. And we understand why we have specific customers that reach a certain pace within the funnel. So if we know that we have a certain type of customer, a certain type of customer dynamic that operates in a certain way, looks at certain type of information, and they get to a certain stage in the funnel, even if they don't end up as a customer, that is a golden customer that you want in your funnel, because what you need to do is you need to continue with generating that demand, and you need to continue with generating as many leads as possible into your funnel from the top end. So there are a number of ways that you do that, again, with SEO and search engine optimization, that is going to help generate that interest, and it is going to help generate as much as you can from external points that are looking at it. And the content creation piece is extremely important. So it's making sure that your content strategy is on point, but it's also something that is revised and reviewed on a consistent basis, almost as consistently as you would revisit your SEO strategy. And in one of the previous companies we had around about 300 leads per month coming into the top of the funnel, because what we used to do would be our SEO strategy would be very hot, but our content would also be out there consistently. We would be talking to the right type of people. We would be in articles, we'd be on newspaper articles, and we'd make sure that our PR team were always constantly talking to reporters and journalists to make sure that we could get our name out there, which wouldn't only help with our SEO, but it would also help with creating additional content, which again drove more traffic to the website, and just created that dialogue from nowhere. Okay, so what we'll try to do at this stage is A/B test as much as you can. So you want to run a couple of different tests at a couple of different areas of this stage that you can manage and you can measure the results. My recommendation would be not to A/B test everything at the same time. My recommendation would be to A/B test everything, but do it all individually. So try and do one thing at a time, understand which one works, and carry on with that. Leave the other one to one side, and then just A/B test something else. But the more you can A/B test at this stage, the better it's going to be in terms of data that's giving to you as to what is and isn't working for you. When we look at the funnel from before, and you look at the MQLs and SQLs and demand gen and lead gen, some people look at inbound versus outbound. Now, I've specifically put versus there because some people look at it as one versus the other. I like to think of them completely together. It's inbound and outbound working together. What you want to be using is you want to be using your outbound strategy plus your inbound strategy to define and generate as many leads as possible. Now, you can either do them in tandem and you can work together, or you can work separately, but they should never be against each other. They should always be within the benefit of the business and always working in the same direction. Most strategies that we've seen, as you can see on the left-hand side, you have SEO, web traffic, you have email campaigns, content strategy that you can be reaching out through social media, pay-per-click marketing, and trade shows and events. And you can do that all through marketing strategies yourself, or you can enhance that with an outbound team. And an outbound team would be your typical SDR who's making the cold calls for you, or you can be working on just generic phone calls and additional touch points. So when we look at it in the way that you're working together in multiple teams, you look at that from a nurturing perspective and working from a combination or a multi-touch point. So you would think of it in a sales funnel as an initial touch point from an email, for example, through a list, and the next touch point would be a phone call. After that phone call, it would be another email from marketing, and then would be another phone call from your SDR. Now, the most important thing throughout this entire process is that the communication back and forth needs to be on point. And the level of interaction that marketing needs to have with, whether it's sales, whether it's the SDR team, whoever it would be, is extremely imperative at this stage to be able to, one, gather the feedback as to what's working and what's not working and how it's working, but also to make sure that the messaging is on point. What you don't want to do is spend all of your time in your marketing on creating messaging for a certain part of your business, and the moment it gets through to sales, they start trying to sell on product or product X. Because if they're selling on product X and you've been marketing over the entire piece of your portfolio, it's going to limit that customer's journey, and it's going to limit their buying power because you're going to be driving them down the wrong type of funnel. So again, that back and forth and that communication, everyone needs to be on the same page as to what channel or what track your customer is being put through. So make sure that your nurturing and your nurture funnels are defined. Make sure your nurture tracks are clear, and everyone is aware as to what message is being perceived at each stage of that nurture track. A great nurture track that I do like working with is for close lost deals. If you have any deals that are not won, I always like being able to put them back into a nurture track so that we can rekindle some lost love maybe in a couple of months' time. And by using and utilizing that with marketing and working very closely with your marketing lead, any deal that you have lost previously in the past, if you can put them into a nurture track on the day that you lose them, this is what we were talking about, this is why we lost, this is what is there, you can generate specific marketing tracks that fall within that from the nurturing funnel, and they're very useful in the future, because if you can keep those leads warm, then they're more likely to come back, and again, they have that high propensity to buy, they have that high propensity to fall through the funnel, and then you will find that at some point those leads are the ones that are converting. So from your inbound and outbound strategy, one of the main things that we look at, and one of the most important areas, is social media. Social media is underutilized. Realistically, we underutilize the impact of social media, not just in the commercial real estate industry, but in a lot of industries. We're only seeing the same people post on a consistent basis. And that's a twofold reason. I think one of those is that we see the same people posting all the time because they have regular posts. They have a cadence of content creation that they continue to do on a daily basis. And one thing I put to the few people that are watching here today would be to set yourself a challenge for the next 30 days and post twice a day, 2 times per day in 30 days, and see and test that A/B testing. Test the difference to your profile, your individual profile. Test the difference in 30 days' time. What's the difference that you can see? What's the fundamental impact that that's had on your own individual profile? Now, if you're the person who is running your company profile, again, try it with the same time. Try the same thing. Try the same objective. Post twice per day for 30 days and see the difference in how many new followers you've made, how many new likes you've had on your post, how many comments have been made on your posts again. So if you can keep those regular posts going. So on the left-hand side, you have regular LinkedIn, the free app, the free-to-play version that are fantastic in terms of building your network and having a great community. And by a great community, what I mean by that is you can join like-minded individuals. I love sales, I love marketing, and I love the gap between them, which is the business development role or the sales development route. So I'm in a number of those different groups. And if any of you go to my LinkedIn profile, you see that I've joined a lot of those groups: marketing professionals, sales best practices, but I've also joined groups that are key to the industries that I've worked in as well. So I have software asset management as an industry, vacation rental professionals as an industry, and also commercial real estate as an industry. So there are ways that you can learn a little bit more about what you're doing, but also make the right connections. That will also give you, from those like-minded individuals, the use of the hashtags that they are using in their posts, and you know the trends that are working and the trends that are capturing the most eyeballs at that time. Now, that is a fundamental piece of success that you can use, because if you're using those hashtags at the right moment for your posts, you are gaining the connections of your connections if they are the ones that are liking and engaging with your content. So the more content that you create, the more chances you have of being seen from your wider network. And that is where you're going to grow your impact on LinkedIn from an organic perspective by doing that on a daily basis. On the other side of this slide, we can see the Sales Navigator piece. And Sales Navigator, some companies pay for this for their reps. Some reps pay for it themselves. I'm not here today to talk about how that should be or who should be doing it. I think LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a wonderful tool. And again, it's underutilized. It's not utilized to the best of its ability. And even if LinkedIn offer training for everyone that is doing Sales Navigator, I still think it's underutilized in the ways that it can be, that's going to help sales professionals in focusing even more, and even marketing professionals in reaching out to their customer base. And if you understand your ICP and you know who you want to be selling to, you should be setting your filters and you should be saving your searches. If you save your searches, you will be informed and you will receive notifications for any updates to your filters and to your searches that you have already set and that you save. And if you go back and search for them every single week, you are going to see new people that fit within that search criteria. Okay, you can filter on shared experiences, which again finds additional like-minded individuals, which only helps you create your network and expand your network. But your alerts for specific activity are also where you're going to capture gold dust. Now, specific activity could be something as simple as someone has posted in the last 30 days. One of your potential customers has posted something in the last 30 days. Now that gives you, again, a reason to reach out to someone. If they have posted something that you can find or an article that you can read, that's going to be excellent information for you. You can find if they've been mentioned in an article. You can find if they've changed roles recently. Again, one of the best times to speak to someone in software sales is when they've just changed a role. If someone that you know has purchased your product 6 months prior and now they've gone to work somewhere else, if you're using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and that person changes role, you can then reach out to them with their new role. So again, you have all of that information available to you through Sales Navigator. And if you utilize that properly, you're going to be able to capture more information and more customers than you wouldn't if you weren't using so. And the final point on this is InMails. Now, InMails, when used correctly, so when you receive an email, everyone knows if you receive an InMail like that, most people don't read them. If you use them incorrectly, you'll lose them. You get 50 per month. You get 50 InMails every single month to utilize as you wish. Now, if you're going to blast everyone with the same thing and the same message and the same jargon of information that no one wants to read, you're going to lose those 50 very quickly. However, if someone responds positively to an InMail, that credit is returned back to you. So again, if you can A/B test messages that you know that are going to work and you're getting some sort of response from your InMails, the best way to do that would be to use an InMail that is working for you. If you find one with a higher return rate or response rate, you will get those credits back, which means you will have unlimited number of InMails when used in the right way. Okay, but they must respond to you. If you can get a response from them, then you keep your 50. If not, you have to wait until the end of the next month until they replenish again, and you get another 50 in-mails to send out to potential buyers. Why is all of this important? I think that the main reason that we look at all of this is because the way that the world has changed in the last 5-10 years is very different. And when we look at how everyone used to buy 5-10 years ago, marketing would be involved up until someone's downloaded a white paper. Someone would download a white paper and you'd receive a phone call from a sales rep within 12-24 hours. Great. Okay, no problem. I'm talking to a salesperson. They can answer all the questions I have. We'll walk through the funnel. We go through the process. It takes a couple of months, no problem. Now everything is online, everything is digital, and everyone has access to information. There is so much information online that now buyers are more averse to speaking to someone until they have read all of the information that is available to them. Now, what this means is that marketing need to have as much of the access to the sales funnel and the sales process as possible, because they need to create content and manage the content through pretty much the entirety of the sales process nowadays. Okay, whereas sometimes they would be involved in creating battle cards for the sales team. Now they are the ones that are owning the battle cards and not providing them to the sales team, because people are looking at that comparison before they're even picking up the phone and speaking to a salesperson. So you need to try and look at the content that you have and create that on as many possible channels as possible, because your buyers are going to different channels. They're online and they are searching for information, and that behavior and that dynamic is becoming more and more apparent the more we're leaning towards millennials as the people that are the ones that are going to be buying the software and buying the technology that we have today. They are leaning more into the digital age and receiving the information before they're starting to go out and even speak to or have first contact with a potential supplier. Okay. One of the things that you would need to do at this stage, and by the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. One thing that you do need to look at is data hygiene. And Bob in our previous webinar mentioned something about data hygiene and what is important, but the why is equally as important. Now, I found out the hard way. I'm going to tell you a life story, a real life story of one of my previous companies. We had a team of extremely eager, extremely capable, wonderful SDRs that were really, really looking to go out and to hit targets and generate as much interest as we can. And we sent out a large number of emails through our CRM. We automated this. We sent out a large number of emails to people, and we got very quickly, we found out that we'd been put on the spam list, and I call it the naughty step, but we had been marked as spam. The reasons for that were we'd set links, we'd put direct links in email signatures, we'd sent videos, we put links to our website, we'd had very poor spelling in some cases, unfortunately, and even then some people just marked them as spam. We had people that had previously requested to be removed from the mailing list, and we hadn't cleaned up those contacts. So we were blanket messaging contacts within our database. We were messaging them, and we weren't messaging them accurately. We weren't having control of that message, and we were put on the spam filter. It took us 6 months to come off of the spam filter. We had to create complete new domains, email domains for the entire team. Fortunately, it wasn't the whole business that was there. It was just the SDR team, but we had to create new email domains for them, and they were emailing from those domains for at least 6 months before they could go back to their initial emails, because of the error that we made when we got marked down as spam. So that's one reason why it's so important to go back into your CRM and clean out anyone that has asked to be removed from your mailing list, doesn't have an email address that works, isn't very responsive, and they haven't really done much from that other than when they initially signed up to you a few years ago, and they've just always been there and you've always been emailing them. Those are the types of people you want to be removing out of your email lists, so that you can cleanse your data, keep those lists active and moving, and those are the ones that are going to be helpful to you while you're really looking to send out your email messaging and your targeted messaging that's going to really help you enable to be quick, but also get to the right type of people, get to the right type of customers, and get as much feedback from there as possible. And that's going to help you when you're looking to analyze your existing customers as well. The cleaner your data can be in the system, the better it's going to be when you're looking at analyzing which types of customers work best for you. So always go back. And as I said, for your nurture tracks, I love looking at old lost deals. I do like things that old lost deals are just as valuable as the closed won deals, because if you go back and look at who you've won, that's great. That's a great understanding as to what channel they used in the first place when they came through to you. Why were they looking? What did they look at? What was the material that interested them before they come through you, before they came over to you? And you can use your CRM for that data, but also closed lost deals. There is a lot of value in the closed lost deals that tells you what captured those types of people in the first place. And the more you get from those, and I would question most people here that you have more closed lost deals than you have closed won. If it's not the case, fantastic. I'd love to hear from you. But if it is the scenario where you have more closed lost deals than you have closed won, it's still going to be important to understand where they came from in the first place, to understand what you can do to keep them going and generate more of those potential customers in the future. And the final one from there is ask for referrals from your closed won deals and even from your closed lost. Make sure you're asking for referrals. Do they know of anyone else that would benefit from the product that you're delivering today, even if they don't buy? Most people think they're getting left off the hook, which is a good thing, and they'll be likely to give you a name. But it's worth asking, and it should be best practice from every team as well. Even if you're not going to buy from me today, can you give me the names of 3 or 4 people that you think would benefit from our services? And I think the final point I wanted to make today is that winners break away. In downturns, winners break away. And we know that we've got some tough times coming up, but it's not about how you enter the curve or how you enter the corner. It's about how you exit. It's about your exit strategy, not your entry into there. So set up your strategy for getting out of the curve. Don't set up for removing the curve. Don't set up for that downturn. It's about setting up for when we come out at the other side. So thinking of that recession as a sharp curve on a racetrack is the best place to go past everyone. The reason for that is that everyone's braking under heavy braking zone. If anyone's ever gone to a racetrack before, everyone sits in the same places. And it's not the places where cars are going fast. It's the places where all the cars are trying to brake, because that's where everyone manages to overtake. And that's where the skill really comes out. And you see that people are jumping down by doing a little bit later braking, or focusing more on how they're going to exit the corner than how they want to enter. Those that are more cautious are worried about how they're entering the corner. Those who are taking a little bit more of an aggressive strategy sometimes miss the corner, and you have to be careful from that. Don't miss your breaking point, but think about how you're going to exit your strategy or exit the corner and come out on the other side. So when we look at this, speed wins. We do need to be quick. You need to make sure that you're making the most of every opportunity. A/B test everything, not at the same time. Please be aware of that. It's not at the same time. You want to A/B test as much as possible. Fail fast, learn fast, improve fast. The quicker you can understand what is and isn't working, the more you can learn from that, the more you can adapt, the more you can improve and make the changes to your strategy, which helps you find the winning formula. And that should help you think outside the box and keep going after what's working and what is working, and keep working on them and focus on those strategies. This is Sharp Launch. As you know, that we can help with all of the above, streamlining everyone's property marketing, making those listings stand out, being able to help you with that visibility, which again helps bring in the leads that we've been talking about today. We can help with expanding all of that out on the listings on a number of different platforms across the United States. We can expand that visibility out to everyone else. We have a number of webinars coming up, and the next one we have is from our CEO, who's going to be sharing with you tips to increase your visibility of your actual property listing as well. And that's going to be helping. And I think in the chat just now, we've included the link to sign up to that webinar, that if you wanted to get ahead of that now and register, please feel free to. The registration was live today. And other than that, from me, my name is Chris Henley. This is my details from earlier, and I'd love to hear from as many of you as possible. If there's any questions, please reach out, but I think we're just about to come to the end of the half an hour. If there's no questions, I can leave the line open for a moment or two. Other than that, thank you ever so much for your attention. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to speaking to you all in the future.